It's National Women's Health Week, and joining us on the WBGO Journal are two superstars in their respective fields: Grammy Award-winning artist, singer-songwriter, actress, and breast cancer survivor Sheryl Crow, and OB-GYN Dr. DeCarla Albright from Philadelphia. Thanks to both of you for joining us on the WBGO Journal.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
In the United States, COVID-19, well, it's resulted in a projected delay of more than 22 million screening tests for cancer and a 20% reduction in oncology visits between March and June of last year. And when you have a delay in preventative routine health screenings, including mammograms, that's troublesome because of early detection and prevention remains so important for optimum health and well-being. Sheryl Crow, a lot of people know your story, but some don't. Can you take us back to when you first were diagnosed with breast cancer and what you thought about and more about the experience you went through?
Yeah, in 2006, I was in my early 40s and I had scheduled my routine mammogram. I was the picture of good health. I was extremely fit, ate really well, no family history, and really wanted to put off that mammogram. It was, not at a great time. It was right around the Grammys. But I went ahead and ticked it off my list, and I got called back with an abnormality, and they suggested that I come back in 6 months. But rather than waiting the 6 months, I went ahead and had a needle biopsy, and as it turned out, I was diagnosed with stage 1 invasive breast cancer. And as you might imagine, it was definitely a huge game change for me. Even though I knew that it wasn't a death sentence because it was detected so early, it still really dictated that I look at my life and some of the habits that we as women get into, which is taking care of everyone before we take care of ourselves. And I'm really blessed that I have a pretty wide swath of aged women, all the way from 13 to my age, 30. I mean, late 50s, and even older, that I can talk to about this very thing of putting your health care first before you try to take care of everyone else, and being diligent about getting your mammogram yearly.
Those who know your music and know your causes, you are passionate about everything you do, Sheryl Crow. So tell us about your passion to make sure that people really pay attention to their ultimate health and how they look at it. It is, National Women's Health Week. It's a perfect time to talk about overall health, but especially mammograms.
It is, and we don't have a cure, so early detection is our best weapon. And even since I was diagnosed, the technology has improved so much. I was diagnosed with a 2D mammogram, and now we have the Genius 3D, and it's far superior. It rules out false negatives. It just keeps getting better and better. So I recommend women, coming out of this pandemic, get on board with getting your mammogram.
Well, this is an extremely important issue in my family. I'm talking to you from my mother's home. She's 91 and is a breast cancer survivor. She was diagnosed back in 1986 and had her breast removed. So we all know in this family how important it is. Dr. Albright, what can women expect when they arrive for a mammogram during this pandemic? Are there differences?
So, well, first let me say I'm just so happy to hear the good news about your mom being a breast cancer survivor and having had her screening done. Yes, there are differences. The radiology centers are pacing appointments differently, so people, are appropriately distant and spaced. All precautions are being taken. All CDC guidelines are being followed. So it is really safe to go back and have your screening done. So, with that being said, my biggest message is not to delay your mammogram any further. If you've been delayed during the pandemic, get it done, pick up the phone, call today, take care of yourself, because in a way that's taking care of your family.
What do you say to those who obviously have a fear factor of, I don't want to know, there may be something in case, I know that my sister, she knows that breast cancer is in the family, so what do you say to people like that?
Well, I do honestly acknowledge the anxiety of that. I mean, you know, no one wants to have a diagnosis of cancer, but I try to emphasize the fact that early detection does save lives. And with early detection, the prognosis is better. You are more likely to survive a breast cancer, and you're less likely to have, you know, more, you know, devastating types of surgeries that can be disfiguring and can have a negative impact on a woman's sense of self. So I think it's important to get that information as soon as possible and deal with it head on. And many places now have various support networks for women. And then we have none other than Grammy Award-winning Sheryl Crow to help motivate you and be that picture of health to show you that you can survive this and be in remission for quite a long time.
You know, Doug, I would say one thing too is that, you know, just looking back 30 years ago or previous to that, we didn't even do lumpectomies. And now we've not only gone from 2D, we've gone to 3D. And now with the BRCA test, which is the genetic test for people like your sister who know that they have breast cancer in their family, all these things are set up to empower us and to help us make the decision for our own health, for helping us advocate for our own health. And it's like the flight attendant who comes on and says, will you please put on your oxygen mask before you put on your child? This is what we're doing. We're putting ourselves first, which is something that women are not necessarily accustomed to doing, but knowledge is power. And we want to take advantage of all these things, these improvements that are happening in the world of science and in breast cancer. And one of those things is to be an advocate for ourselves and making sure we get our routine mammograms, knowing our family history, if there is a history there of getting the genetic test that tells you if you have a propensity for having breast cancer. That way you can make an educated decision about how you want to proceed with your own treatments.
As being a celebrity, was it even more difficult knowing that you had something that's so personal, but everybody's finding out about it?
I'm really grateful that we're at a point now where we talk about these things. I mean, maybe everything is way too much out in the open. I mean, I have little boys that I'm trying to protect what they see. But, you know, really up until Betty Ford, no one would even speak about their breasts. And we're at a place now where not only can we talk about our breasts, but we can encourage other women and even the 5% of men. If you feel something abnormal in the train of your breast, go and ask questions. Don't be embarrassed. And we have to lift each other up throughout this. We've learned that through the pandemic. We have to be there for each other. We have to be each other's support systems. I'm just grateful that now we're able to speak about it, and it's not an embarrassment. This is part of our physicality that God created, and it's a wonder. And we're still learning about how our bodies work. So it's great to utilize the information and the technologies that we have now.
Both of you, I know, Sheryl, I know you love jazz, and Dr. Albright, I hope you do too, but you know, we're considered the world's greatest jazz station. And Sheryl, I wanted to mention your beautiful rendition of Cole Porter's Begin to Begin in the 2004 movie DeLovely starring Kevin Kline for a few reasons. You know, WBGO's Michael Bourne was the roommate of Kevin Kline at Indiana University.
Oh.
And then you have a wonderful duet with Michael Bourne's closest friend, Tony Bennett. And so the girl I love from duets too. Jazz has impacted you. What do you
Absolutely.
what do you like about jazz and blues?
Well, first let me just say I was raised by two people that were and still are so into music, and they were in a swing band when I was a kid. So I grew up listening to what I feel like is the greatest music ever, from Cole Porter, I mean, all the great Broadway shows, but also Duke Ellington and Stan Kenton and Buddy Rich and all the great arrangements, Tommy Dorsey, all the great crooners from Frank Sinatra to Tony Bennett to Nat King Cole. I mean, I was raised listening to Aretha Franklin and Stevie Wonder and then James Taylor and the Beatles, and I just was saturated with some of the greatest music that ever was, and I continue to carry that in my heart, my physicality, and hopefully as influences as I write. And I am trying to, through osmosis, inflict my children with my influences. So, music is a powerful physical art form that I think in many ways it emboldens our physicality. They've done lots of studies on even memory issues with music and the shape of our cells when we're listening to music, and it's all intertwined. And I think jazz is one of the most beautiful American art forms that ever was and will ever be.
Certainly soothes the soul. You'd probably be surprised that recently on the WBGO Journal, drummer Steve Jordan talked about you and helping out the Jazz Foundation of America. You, as I mentioned before, you are so passionate about all of your causes. Where did that passion come from? Your parents?
Definitely my parents. I mean, my parents felt like they were a part of a very diverse community, and they looked, and they still look. I mean, my dad's 89, my mom just turned 84. They still look around for ways they can help. And, we were raised in a church, and I've carried that with me forever and ever. And Steve Jordan is, if I might say, a total badass. And I loved working with him. I love what the Jazz Foundation does. And there's so many people in need all across every walk of life. But where I live, which is in the world of music, some of our greatest musicians, towards the end of their lives, were destitute. So, I know this is a huge issue, a great concern, and a huge cause for Steve and for the Jazz Foundation. And you just look for ways you can help and lift people up. So that's what we do.
Dr. DeCarla Albright, all you do is help people. Why did you want to do this? Why did you become an OBGYN?
Well, first let me give a plug for jazz, because I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana, born and raised. So jazz is a part of my soul. Let me just say that. But as an OBGYN, I have come to have this passion for breast cancer screening, because I've been fortunate enough to help women detect cancers really early and really impact the future of their lives and their family. And just the gratitude that women have when you see them and you treat that concern as an urgency, and they can find out information, although maybe not happy information, but the way that they can be informed and empowered and mobilized for their families and their future. And that can in itself be life-saving. I also do this because women of color are at increased risk of earlier onset breast cancers and triple negatives, more extreme forms of breast cancer, and tend to have a higher death rate from breast cancer. So as a woman of color, it is definitely important to me and near and dear and close to my heart to be a part of the screening campaign process.
So, Dr. Albright, people want to know more information. Where can they go?
So I would say they definitely need to talk to their radiology centers and request a 3D mammogram. That's going to be the best screening technology for all women. So definitely start with getting your 3D mammogram.
So also, you can go to genius3dnearme.com to find out where the closest mammogram that's 3D near you. You can just go to that website, genius3dnearme.com.
Whether it be pop, rock, country, jazz, blues, Sheryl Crow has strong messages for all of us. If it makes you happy, a change would do you good. Every day is a winding road. Soak up the sun. The first cut's the deepest. All I want to do, strong enough. In the end, all extremely powerful songs and lyrics. When you're talking to women now, is there a new song that comes out of your soul here that you're going to be working on? What's your newest project?
Oh my goodness. Well, I do have, I've got 3 new songs we're getting ready to go and record on Friday. And they're very uplifting, so hopefully we'll get to hear those, in the next couple of months.
Well, we certainly love your music, and we love what both of you are bringing to the table today, messages about women's health and preventative measures. Thanks to both of you for joining us on the WBGO Journal.
Thanks so much, Doug.
Take care.